What player golf irons should you invest in this year? Let's find out. What's up guys, it's Brandon from New 9 Golf. Today we're taking a look at the Ping i230, the Taylormade P7MC, the Callaway Apex Pro, the Titleist T100, the Cobra King Tour, the Mizuno Pro 223, the PXG 0311T, the Wilson Staff CB, and our wild card, the Takomo 301 CB. I'm gonna put all of these irons head to head to find out which is best for me, so let's get into this review. All right guys, for this review, I'm going to use a TrackMan. I'm using an RCT ball, and where I'm filming in Calgary, Alberta, the elevation is about 3,400 feet, so take that into account when you see my ball flight. The reason why I put the elevation at where I live is because that's how I know all of my stock yardages. So today I'm hitting mostly 6 irons with the exception of 2. The Ping and the Taylormade are both 7 irons. The Ping I couldn't change, so it's gonna be a stock 7 iron. The Taylormade allows you to change the loft, so I made it 2 degrees stronger. So it's definitely stronger than a 7 iron, which should get me closer to a traditional 6 iron. I'm gonna use the same shaft for all of these tests. It's the Project XLZ 6.5 Flex, with the exception of 2 clubs, the Takomo and the Taylormade. Because they were sent to us with specific shafts, I just can't change them. The first club I'm gonna hit is the Ping i230. Let's start hitting. Okay, so the way that my reviews work is I'm gonna get 10 good hits of each iron. Then I'm gonna delete the best hit and the worst, so I get a really good baseline for all of these clubs. The first club we're starting with is that Ping i230, and it is a 7 iron. The shaft is the Project XLZ, which is the normal shaft that I play. This Ping i230 looks so clean. If you like minimalist stuff on your club heads, you might really enjoy the look of the Ping i230. Looks super clean, and at address, it has a nice little satin look. So overall, I think looks-wise, it's awesome. Let's start to get hitting, and we'll see the results that we get. Okay, first 2 hits out of the gate, feels really solid, pretty good. I am warm, so I didn't come into this session cold. I've hit a bunch of warm-up balls, so I am feeling quite good. My normal 7 iron, just to give you guys a baseline, is about 190. So that's again at Calgary elevation, at sea level, it's probably only around 175, 180, but where I live, a normal 7 iron for me is about 190. So those first 2 hits are carrying my average, but to roll out to about 200 yards is already bigger than my current 7 iron. So the loft of this 7 iron is 33 degrees. The majority of all the other 6 irons I have are 30 to 28 degrees. The Ping 6 iron is 29.5, so there obviously is a gap between the 7 and 6, but just so you guys are aware, that is the loft of the Ping. If you guys saw my player improvement iron video, those heads were obviously bigger. There's a bigger sweet spot, more weight behind the club face. Now that we're into the player irons, there's a smaller sweet spot, so the miss hits should feel much different. The thing that I'm gaining is workability. So a lot of players like to try to work both a draw and the fade, and when you get into a player's irons, that should be the benefit of using those. That felt good. Large. Okay, so my normal shot shape is a bit of a draw, and that's what I'm seeing so far out of the Ping. The carry is already like averaging probably 10 yards more than my current 7 iron. So just based on that versus my current club, I think I'd be crazy not to go with more yardage. They feel really good. I would say that these feel as good as they look. So I'd love that this is the baseline for our review. That one was just slightly mishit, so that was on my toe. Like that held the line pretty good. That's actually a really funny mishit. If the mishit is holding the line and I'm still getting 195, you can't be mad at that. I have not a lot of complaints so far out of this Ping, not at all. There's a lot of data on your screen when you're looking at my numbers. Something that I'm looking at is the spin rate. Typically in the past, when I've hit Ping irons, they spin fairly high, and I've kind of lost a lot of ball flight because they kind of balloon on me. This is not doing that. My spin rate is at about, I'll have to look at all my averages, but I haven't seen anything over the 7,000. I would start to get worried hitting a 7 iron if it went above 7,000. But if I can keep it between 5,500 and 7,000, that would be ideal for every 7 iron. Oh, that could be the best yet. This dispersion is looking pretty good. I can't wait to see all the groupings. Super solid. That was a really good session. Let's take a look at all of my averages. Okay guys, all of these numbers down here are my averages. So I was averaging a 2.7 carry and a 2.15 total with a 7-iron. So I'm averaging 17 yards more total carry than my current 7-iron. Crazy. I have to find my best and I have to find my worst. My worst looks like it could have been my first hit. 189 carry, 194 total, and it was obviously a little offline. So I'm gonna delete this as my worst. My best could have been my last one. 207 carry, 215 total, bit of a draw. 206, 214. I'm actually gonna delete this one because it held my line tighter. So I'm gonna delete this one. Okay, here's my new averages. My new average, deleting my best and my worst, is 201 carry and a 209 total. So again, I've still picked up 11 yards of my current 7-iron. So I think that was a great starting ground. The ping felt really good, looks really good, sounds really good. I really don't have anything bad to say about that ping. Let's take a look at my dispersion. This is really cool. So typically I play a draw, which is what 90% of these hits are. They are all just left of center. A couple of those hits I'd consider maybe slight pulley. All of these irons that I'm hitting are on the manufacturer's standard loft, standard lie, standard length. So if I was in a full fitting, I could probably put these a little flatter to get me a little closer to center. But overall, I think that grouping is relatively good. The next club up is the Taylormade P7MC. This is the other 7-iron, so I'll get both of those out of the way. This I did make stronger, so this should be closer to the lofts of the 6-irons. Okay, this P7MC, like I said, is a 7-iron. The regular loft is a 34. That's what the 7-iron is, but we've put it down to a 32. Their 6-iron is 30. So it's right in between a 6 and a 7. I wanted to get this as close as possible because I know a lot of you are going to be interested in the Taylormade P7MC. So I wanted to get it just as close to all the other irons as possible. I'm quite familiar with Taylormade. These look like a lot of their other irons in the past. To me, nothing really stands out of them looking different other than the sole. The sole looks maybe a little bit thicker than their previous generation. It's still a satin top, but I think from a looks perspective, it looks okay. Like there's nothing really jumping out at me. There's a little bit of shiny metal, a little bit of satin, but as far as like a looks go, I wouldn't give it any more than a 6 out of 10, and that's just my opinion. They just look boring. I'm such a visual guy, obviously. Like, look at my shirt. I think the pings look better than these. Okay, you guys know the drill. Let's start hitting this. Oh, I will mention this is one of the shafts that is different. Because Taylormade sent us this iron, I can't change the shaft. This is a KBS Tour X-Flex. So let's start hitting the P7MC and we'll see what the results are. Felt pretty smooth. It feels solid. It definitely feels solid. Okay, first couple swings out of the gate, it does feel quite solid. I've obviously just hit the ping, so I'm trying to compare the two right off the bat. I would say it doesn't quite feel as solid as the ping. That's just my honest feedback right out of the gate. Looking at the numbers, they're very comparable. There's actually only 1 degree difference, even though we bent this 2 degrees stronger. Let's keep hitting them and see the results. Okay, here's a miss hit. This was low on the face. Low on the face, still carrying 195. So this is very, very comparable to that ping. That's funny, that felt like a decent hit. My smash factor was down, but I'm still in that 190 range, and for my 7-iron, that's normal. I think what people that are shopping for players irons are looking for is definitely dispersion and workability. So I just had 2 of my not best hits, and the dispersion is really close to the line. So I'm gonna say that these P7MCs are a forgiving players club. That felt melted. So something that I'd be looking for when I'm shopping for a player iron, there's a couple things. The first thing is feel. So let's say hypothetically I got the absolute best numbers out of 1 iron, but they felt like absolute shit. I wouldn't buy them. Looks are another big thing that I think they have to look visually appealing. I have to be excited to look into my bag and pull out an iron, but let's not discredit any of the data because obviously if there's a 60-yard gap between 2 manufacturers, I would lean the other way, but looks is important to me, feel is important to me, and then workability is important. Sometimes I need to move the ball. I've hit irons in the past where I just couldn't do that. So far out of these players irons, they feel really good. I like the dispersion. It's been a really good start for both the ping and the Taylormade. So if any of you guys are new to the channel, my name's Brandon. I am a scratch golfer. I'm an amateur golfer. I'm a consumer just like all of you. I like to take the game seriously. I play almost every day in the summer. It's a sport that I love. The lowest my handicap has been is about a +2. Right now I'm holding about a 0. I typically shoot in the mid to low 70s, and my best tournament score, believe it or not, is a 63. I know, hard to believe. Haven't been that close since, but that's kind of my golf game in a nutshell. Okay, here's a really good miss hit. I just chunked it and I'm 10 yards short. I did get pretty good roll, so I got another 11 yards of roll. So again, too, this isn't my normal shaft. So the shaft might have maybe a slightly different kick point, which is changing that. The majority of my hits have been very good, but I would say in all of my sessions, that was my worst hit, and that could be the shaft or it could be the golfer. Us golfers always like to blame the equipment. Okay guys, that's all my hits. Let's take a look at my data. Okay guys, I gotta find my best and my worst. My worst I was just talking about, that was that chunky 180. But again, fairly forgiving, right? It still rolled out to my normal total. I gotta delete that one. My best, like these are very, very similar. 202, 204, 203, 204 baby draw. This one was closer to the line. I'm gonna delete that one. 203, right on the line, drew to 212. Bye-bye. Okay, here's my baseline. My baseline average carry 197, 205. Let's compare that to the ping really quick. Very, very similar. We're within a yard of each other. So I would say so far that ping and the Taylormade are like super neck and neck. I think just looking at my ball flights, I actually had a tighter dispersion with the Taylormade. I might have to get refit for shafts. Who knows, that shaft, that KBS might actually be a better shaft for me. Really cool. Let's look at my spin. My spin was again right in that 5,800 RPM, a little higher, 5,873. But overall, that was a really good session. Let's look at my dispersion. So the center line is right where you see these numbers, this solid line where it shows 200, 190. So let's say this 200 is the pin, right? I had 4 just left of it and 4 just right. This obviously one short, little bit of a miss hit. This is very consistent. To have 7 of 8 hits all within the same grid is a really good session, I would say. How does that compare to the ping? Ping was more left, right? So I was favoring a pull where the Taylormade was all really close to the line. So that it might be a good shaft for me. So we got to keep moving. Let's hit the next club. Okay guys, next club we're looking at is the Callaway Apex Pro. This thing looks really good. I would say visually I put this near the top of my list. I think Callaway has done a very good job with the aesthetics of this iron. Already the Apex Pro feels just a little heavier. I'm not 100% sure on the weight of the head, but just holding it and taking it back just feels ever so slightly heavier than that Taylormade and the ping. Let's get into the hits. All right guys, now we're into 6 irons. Every club from here moving forward, they're all 6 irons. That sounded different. Did that not sound different than everything we've hit so far? Yeah. That sounded like a slap. That's hard to explain. That just sounded slappy. Okay, you're gonna start to see my yardages go up. My average 6 iron with my current club is about 200 carry. So 216 carry, that's a big difference. The Apex Pro is coming in at 29 degrees. The shaft I'm using on this is back to that Project X LZ. Look at that though, I would take that every time. 11 feet right of the line. Whew. That should be left, I bet. This definitely feels much different from the ping and the Taylormade. This feels, it's hard to explain. I think because there's more weight behind the face. I don't know if it's opening the sweet spot. It just feels different. I want to try to explain to you guys that it feels different. Let me keep hitting it, maybe it'll come to me. You can hear it, right? Can you hear it? It still feels solid. You know what it feels like? It feels much more comparable to those game improvement irons. I think because those game improvement irons have a lot of weight behind the face, and I feel like there's more of a gap from the face to the back of the club, that I feel like I feel the ball in between the face and the back of the club. Okay, that last one felt slightly mishit, and look at this forgiveness. Carry 202, rolled out 216. It's only 3 feet right of the center line. So dispersion-wise, awesome dispersion. I would love that as a mishit every single time.
You know why they feel different?
Huh.
They're a forged hollow body.
Thank you. Felix just looked up that these are a forged hollow body, and hollow body was the word I was thinking of. I was just saying that I feel like I can feel the ball, not on the face, but in between, and that's exactly why, is because of the hollow face. So interesting, like, and the fact that I could feel that before actually knowing that about the club is pretty cool. So this thing feels, how'd they describe? Forged hollow body, I got you. Melted. For me, I'm not overly, how do I say this without sounding like a douche? Distance doesn't really impress me for my game. What impresses me is dispersion. I can hit it far, but I can't always hit greens, especially from 214. This so far feels like the tightest session that I've had. I'll have to look at the total numbers, but I typically don't paint lines within 20 feet. So this feels really good, really good. Oh God. Just when I thought I was starting to get good at golf. This is as real as it gets. You're melted it on the course, you're in autopilot, and then you come up and you kind of hit one not very good. So here's a good look at a miss hit. I could feel on the face that was low and left. Still carried 211, poles usually go further. My smash factor, believe it or not, was high. So the fact that I mishit it and still had a high smash factor with this head, spin was way down. My spin should be up to about 6,000. But again, if that's your miss, like that's in play. That's pretty cool. Launched. If you've seen some of my other reviews, I've never really gotten along with Callaway. This is changing my mind. This put Callaway back on my map. Not that I don't like Callaway, it's just in my other testing for like drivers, they've just been outperformed. Not this. This I'm surprised by. Okay guys, that's 10, let's do the data. Let's look at the data. Super impressed with that session. Out of those first three, ping I was super impressed by. Taylormade was like, it just reminded me a lot of their other stuff. Taylormade's always been good. Was I wowed by it? No, I was wowed by that. Let's look at some numbers. Got to delete my best and my worst. You guys know the drill. What was my worst? Probably that, chunky 200, 204, or no, where was that one that was 218? That was way left to my line. This one here, 211, see ya. What was my best? The couple right after that felt melted. Look at this, 9 feet off the line, 218 carry, 230 total. 218 carry, 230 total, 9 feet off of the center line with a 6 iron. See ya. Okay guys, let's look at my averages. This is my average with my 6 iron with the Callaway Apex Pro. 218 total, 229 carry. So I'm gaining 18 yards in carry off of my current iron. Keep in mind the elevation. So if you guys are like, this dickhead does not hit a 6 iron, 218 yards, I'm at 3,400 feet elevation. At sea level though, so let's say normally my sea level 6 iron's like 180. If I'm picking up 18 yards, now I'm back up to 200. So it doesn't matter if I'm at sea level or at elevation. This club is going further than my current club. So when I think of hollow body, the thing that I'm in the back of my mind worried about is the consistency. Will I get that flyer or that jumper on occasion? So that would obviously make me more inconsistent with my irons. Let's look at the dispersion. Tight, man. That's a tight session. Okay, here's my line. Again, I typically play a draw, so there's 4 on that side. Oh no. How many? 1, 2, 3. Holy, let's learn how to count. I have 5 on my favorable left side and 3 tight. Super tight dispersion, and we're back to that Project X LZ. So I just mentioned having those occasional flyers. Let's compare the dispersions. Ping dispersion, there's only a difference from, I would say 15 yards from the lowest to the highest. Taylormade was, again, maybe 15 yards, right?
I don't think it's that big of a difference.
And then the Callaway is, you know, just above that. So as far, even though it's a hollow body, it's not like I have a 30 yard or 40 yard difference. So I would say it's as comparable to the ping and the Taylormade, and overall it felt really good. So I'm quite liking this Callaway. Guys, I forgot to give you the pricing on these irons. So the first one that I hit was the Ping i230, comes in at $265 an iron Canadian. We'll put the US number there for you too. The Taylormade P7MCs are $243 an iron Canadian. The Callaway Apex Pros come out at $250 an iron Canadian. So I know a bunch of you watching are on a different budget. Some of you can afford the, obviously the top end, top of the line clubs, and then some of you are looking for some more affordable clubs. I put 2 irons that are the most affordable player irons that I could find. This one I'm gonna hit is Wilson. We've had a lot of subscribers ask about the Wilson Staff CB iron, so that's what I have for you guys. Visually, I'm semi-impressed with that. What do I mean by semi-impressed? The perimeter of the club, I think, looks really cool. It has that chrome look of most traditional irons. The toe has kind of just a satin cutout, but then I find the cavity kind of boring. It has, do I think it's boring? Yeah, I think it's kind of boring. It has kind of some cool geometry in it, and the Wilson staff, I'm so used to seeing a red logo. I actually do like this. It's just a muted kind of silver and black. Overall, visually, I think it looks pretty good. From the top down, it looks like every other club that I've hit for the most part. It's got the satin top, the club head looks like a player head, and the loft is 30 degrees. I have my Project X LZ in here. Let's start hitting this Wilson. Oh, should I tell you how much it is? I'll do it at the end of the session. Weight-wise, I would feel it's definitely lighter than that Callaway I just hit. I would put this in the same ballpark as the Ping and the Taylormade. Okay, let me tell you why that happened. I've talked about the top line not being shiny because I hate the glare of sun on the club. There's no glare on the top line, but the face where the grooves are not is a super shiny chrome. So when I put the club at address, there's a light above me, reflecting light right of the ball. So when I go to address to hit it, there's basically a mirror shining onto my ball. So as soon as I went to address, I do my normal setup, I address, there is a light that I can put all over this ball. I hate that. Wilson, I hope you're watching. Get rid of the chrome on the face, bro. Okay, first 2 hits, even though that painted the line, did not feel good. Let's keep going. Oh my God, I hate that reflection.
So in a fitting, if you're coming in and you see that, you would not hit it.
I'd give it back. No, based on those first 3 hits, I haven't, well, the second hit I had painted the line, felt good. Not any, well, did it feel good? Not really. Not anywhere close to the other 2. But just the reflection on the ball, I would never buy these already. I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't buy them. How weird is it that the entire session I've had this little tight draw and I've lost every one of these out to the right? So I will give Wilson a little bit of credit. When I hit it on the screws, it does feel pretty good. I still wouldn't put it in the same category as anything else that I've hit. It's definitely on the lower end. My experience has been the worst so far, but when I do catch it on the screws, it feels pretty good, which I imagine most irons would. Not impressed. Okay, that wraps up the Wilson session, thank God. Okay, let's look at my averages. Oh no, I gotta delete my best and worst. What am I doing? What am I doing here? My averages, I was averaging 191 carry and a 202 total. That does not impress me at all. The dispersion, let's get into the dispersion here, felt all over the place. If you saw my other sessions, I was just left at this line for the most part, right? The majority of them, 5 of 8, are over here. I lost a bunch to the right, a bunch of flares. Okay, that's interesting. Let's compare that to the last session I just had with that Callaway, right? They're only 1 degree different. Wilson, average carry 190, Callaway, 212. Even the set, does it keep up with the 7 irons? Let's look at the Callaway, or the Wilson, 202 carry, 190. So it's, distance-wise, it's similar to the Ping 7 iron. Dispersion was not great. That was the same shaft, the Project X LZ. I hated looking at the reflection on the ball. The second I saw that, I was already turned off of the club. It could have been psychologically in the back of my mind that it's already a club I don't like. I'm not gonna buy this. I don't know if that's why I didn't have my best session. It felt okay. So if you're actually someone that wants to buy these Wilson CBs, I would say hit everything else in the comparables. I have another affordable iron that I'm gonna get to later on in the Takomo, so we'll see how that stacks up versus the Wilson. Overall though, it just wasn't a very good session, and that's gonna happen. That's why you guys go get fit. I guarantee there's someone watching this video that has their mindset on one brand. You're gonna go into a fitting, you're gonna hit that, then you're gonna hit others and be like, oh, oh, maybe there's a club that's better for me. That happens with everyone. So in that session with the Wilsons, I could change the loft and the lie to tighten my dispersion, but just looking at the club at address, I don't even want to. I want to play golf on a nice, hot, sunny day, and if the sun is reflecting on the ball, like, get the fuck out of here. Sorry, Wilson. Sorry, Gary Woodland. Okay, I'm excited to get any other club in my hand. The Wilson Staff CBs are coming in at 165. Okay guys, the next club we're looking at is the Cobra King Tour. Something that I already noticed off the bat because I just hit that Wilson is the face does have some shiny metal. It's not as shiny, so as soon as I put the club down, the reflection isn't as bad, but there is still slight reflection. It's not nearly as bad as the Wilson. So there must be maybe one more coating on this, but I think if you do play in the sun, this is going to reflect off of the club face. Interesting. Visually, I think it looks really good. I think Cobra has done a great job the last couple of years in upping the visuals and the performance. If you guys watched my driver review this year, the Cobra LTDx LS1, the best driver of 2022 in the player category, it's a bomb. It's in my bag. I love that driver, so I'm super excited to hit these Cobra King Tours. These are coming in at 29 degrees, and I have my Project X LZ shaft in it. Let's go. Oh, that felt good. Okay, it took me 3 swings to get there, but that felt awesome. That was right at the center of the face, the exact shot shape I want, nice little draw off the line. Felt really good. The first 2 were a little mishits. I'll have to look at the data again to see how that compares. This sounds very good, really good. Let's see if I can replicate that. Oops, that was a push. The feedback across this face is very good, and that's something that I look for when shopping for a player's iron. When I did the player improvement irons, a lot of the time the toe feels the same as the heel, same as the club face. You're not gonna find that a lot of the times with a player iron. That's what I like. I like to feel when I hit it on the toe, when I hit it on the center of the club face, I just left my face wide open and I caught it on the toe. So I knew as soon as I hit that, that would be a push, and sure enough, that's what it was. So I like that I see what I feel, if that makes sense. Oops. So already I know I'm getting really good distance. I've obviously improved from my current 6 iron. The dispersion hasn't been as good as I was hoping for based on some other clubs in this session. Again, I'll find that all at the end, but I've noticed that I haven't held the line as good with the Cobra as I have with some of the other clubs. Okay, that's 10. You guys know the drill. Overall, that session felt really good. I am impressed with the Cobra. I don't love the reflection off of the face, but overall it felt really good and sounded really good too. Let's find my best and worst. Okay, that huge flare has to be my worst. Huge flare was 201 carry, so still went the distance that I would expect, but well off line. I had kind of a low hook too. That was 70 feet off line. 73 feet offline. I'm gonna delete that as my worst. Now my best. That looks pretty good. 216 carry, 227 total, 6 feet off the line. Gotta delete it. Okay, let's look at these new averages. So I was averaging 211 carry, 224 total. My spin it's fairly low spin. I wouldn't mind it getting it maybe closer to 5,500, maybe up to 6. 6 would be probably the ceiling where I wanna be, so I would consider this a lower spinning head. I had a really good smash factor. I was hitting these really well. Let's look at the dispersion. It looks like I was consistently left. So dispersion was very good, I would say, right? Let's look at the gapping. So my lowest one was just under 200 up to 220. So the gapping between my worst and the best is over 20 yards. So that's actually not as good as the Callaway was on the dispersion, but consistency wise, I was very consistent. I would be confident in a fitter making these flat to get me even closer to that center line. So overall, I think that was a really good session. They felt really good, and I did have a couple mishits, and again, the worst dispersion is just over 20 yards. So if you guys look at the shot tracer on the session I just had with the Cobra, it was very consistent. Like I was consistently hitting that draw, where say like the Wilson, right? I had a couple over here, a couple over here. Callaway, again, very tight. So I would say that the Callaway, the Cobra, and the Taylormade all had very similar dispersions. Even the ping. The ping I had maybe one get away from me, but I was consistently hitting my ball flight. So that's good to see that the shot shape that I'm used to is still translating into these new clubs. So the Cobra King Tours come in at $243 Canadian per club. Okay guys, the next iron that we're looking at is the PXG 0311T. I'm excited to hit this because I don't think I've ever hit a PXG iron. I don't think. PXG, for whatever reason, makes it very hard for club fitting facilities to get all the parts that they need to even do a proper fitting. They really want to go just direct to consumer. So where we are at Modern Golf, the adapter wouldn't fit into my Project XLZ. It would only fit into a Dynamic Gold Tour issue. So I hate to change shafts on you guys, but the only way I can hit this is with a different shaft. So just take that into account when we take a look at the data. I still wanted to hit it because if I went for a fitting, I would want to hear it, feel it, and then we could start to dial everything in. So for this video, I am still going to hit it, but it does have a different shaft. Looks-wise, PXG has always reminded me of Ping. If I remember correctly, when PXG was started, they got some of Ping's master builders to start developing their irons. Don't quote me on that, but every time I look at a PXG, I just think of Ping. So right when I put this club down, it reminds me of a Ping iron. The face finally is not shiny. We're back to satin, so already I don't see a reflection on the ball. The back looks pretty cool. It has a big weight behind the center of the club face. It has 3 weights on the toe, 2 weights on the heel. It's a mix between black and silver. Those colors are right up my alley, so visually I think it does look quite good. Let's give it some hits and see how it performs. I think so far this head feels the lightest out of everything that I've swung. So it might take me a couple just to get used to it, but I think it feels the lightest out of all the heads. I think when I catch these on the screws, they feel awesome, which is what I expect in a player's iron. There is good feedback across the face. That one I could tell I caught on the toe and I just closed it, causing it to turn over. But if that's my miss hit at a 200 carry, 218 total, this is still right in the running with everything that we've already hit. That felt really good. I would say even with a different shaft, the results have been similar.
Yeah.
Very similar. Yeah. Whew. I think overall that actually felt like a pretty good session. So the PXG comes in at 28 degrees, which is tied for the strongest loft out of all of these 6 irons. We gotta delete my best and my worst, so here, let's take a look. 202 carry, well off the line. Is there anything worse than that? 205, 218, 202, 218. We'll take the shorter one. Now my best, 217, just right of the line. That's pretty solid, but 10 yards different. I gotta delete that one. Okay, here's my baseline averages. Averaging 210 carry, 223 total. So obviously it is stronger than my current 6 iron. It's going further. Let's see how it compares to the other clubs that we were hitting. So the Cobra was 1 yard further total, like super close. When you're looking at total numbers, that's interesting. And the Cobra was 29 degrees. So 1 degree difference, 1 yard difference between the two. The Wilson was not even close. Callaway is slightly further, 2 yards further, 1 yard total. The Ping and the Taylormade, again, those were 7 irons. So tough to compare them, but feel-wise, I would say that the PXG felt as good as everything that we've hit minus the Wilson I'm putting at the lower end. But I think that was a really good session with the PXG. I don't know why I'm surprised. I know a lot of people swear by PXGs. Let's look at the dispersion. Relatively tight dispersion. I was hitting more balls right of my line, but that looks like a pretty tight circle. From my best and my worst is only about 10 yards. So that was surprisingly really good dispersion. I've always judged PXG. So let me tell you why. When they first came out, they were like the Cadillac of golf clubs, right? They were a lot more expensive than Titleist and Taylormade. These manufacturers have been around forever. And then they started blowing these clubs out on sale. Like for half the price is what they came out at. So I've always kind of raised an eyebrow to maybe PXG's business model, because first they were super exclusive, and then like the worst golfers that I played with were picking these clubs up on sale. It's just like, I think PXG is still trying to find their identity, but based on that session, these are really good clubs. These 0311Ts were like right up my alley. So I'm confused. I was kind of coming in with this idea that I wasn't gonna like these, and that wasn't the case. And looking at my dispersion, that might be the tightest dispersion we've had, right? Let's look at the Cobra. So obviously bigger depth in difference between the best and the worst. Still had a relatively good session. Wilson, 4 were tight, but again, some were not even close. Callaway, I would say Callaway and PXG were very similar. And then the Taylormade, tight. And the Ping, tight. Like other than the Wilson, all of these clubs have been really good. Like there's not one really standing out. I would say based on everything that I've hit, when I've hit it the best, the Callaway I think has felt the best. But they're all really good. Like this is hard. This is probably the hardest review I've ever had to do, without question. So these Gen 5 PXG 0311Ts are coming in at 260 bucks Canadian an iron, which is definitely on the higher end. But overall, the session was pretty good. So impressed with the PXG. Now we're gonna take a look at the Titleist T100s. As I'm sure you guys have figured out by now, all of these manufacturers release clubs at different times throughout the year. Some of them just recently released some clubs this week, and others are still waiting another 6 months to release clubs. So to time all of these are basically still the newest available clubs that you can get, which is why we're including the T100s. Love Titleist. I've always been a big Titleist guy. I played the Titleist AP2s for a long time. 716 AP2s I probably played for 4, almost 5 years. Loved those clubs. Excited to hit the T100s. They look so clean. Titleist is timeless. Every time I say Titleist, I think minimalist, classic, clean. They've been around forever. A lot of people swear by them, myself included. I love Titleist, so let's hit these T100s and see how they perform. The loft on these T100s is coming in at 30 degrees. Okay, out of the gate, these sound and feel as I would expect. Really good. Not a lot of complaints so far on how they sound. They sound very familiar, similar to my AP2s. So if you're someone considering upgrading your AP2s to a T100, I would say that the sound and feel is very comparable. Whoops. Groove low, let's see how that goes. So playable, there's a miss hit for you. I'm glad I can mix in some miss hits with the good ones. Very low on the face, probably caught the bottom groove and a half. Still 203 carry, 216 total. It's more comparable to my current 6-iron. With these being 30 degrees and other comparable 6-irons being 28 degrees, I'm not expecting these to go the furthest, but I would say when I hit them flush, they feel probably the softest. So if you like soft irons, the T100s might be really good for you. Yeah, very soft, very, very soft. Yeah, a little high floater cut, like that's playable. Oh, pulled it. That might be my delete. Got ahead of myself there. Oh, look at that baby run. So that was a big miss hit. Even though it went 250 with a 6-iron, I smother pulled it. Still high smash factor though. Like a smash factor at 142 is like really high. So the smash factor is a direct correlation between ball speed and club head speed. So it's really grading on how I'm hitting the ball. The tour average with a 6-iron is 1.33. Even though my smash factor was up, the results were not what I would look for. It had a ton of roll, right? Almost 30 yards of roll. And that's not what we're trying to do, especially with a 6-iron. So let's try to straighten it out. There we go. And on a good note, I'll probably delete it. Okay, that's 10, let's go. Okay, my dispersion was kind of all over the place with the T100s, which kind of upsets me. I really like how they felt. They felt very soft. I like the feeling of them off the face. But looking at my dispersion, like right down the line, I had 3 consecutively go left, and the majority of them were more of a fade bias. I gotta delete my best and my worst. So where was that big smother pull? This one, could I say that's my worst? That one's not good either. I'm gonna delete this one. Even though that 6-iron went 250, the spin was way down, it rolled a ton, right? So I'll delete this. Okay, now we have a baseline average. So I mentioned I had a couple left, a couple right. I was averaging 207 carry, 218 total, which is still really good. I've picked up some yardage on my normal 6-iron, but comparing it to some others, it definitely wasn't the longest. PXG we just hit, 3-yard in the carry and 5-yard in the total, but the PXG is 2 degrees stronger, right? So on an even playing field, I would say that this Titleist is gonna keep up with the PXG. Cobra was 1 degree different and 4 yards different in the total and 5 yards difference in the carry. Callaway, again, 5-yard difference. Like they're all very close. Like this is becoming a stressful review because I want to pick the club that I think has been the best, but realistically, all of these have been really good. And this is just why I stress to go for a fitting. Because if I was in a fitting session right now, I don't know which one I'd pick. Like a lot of them look good, a lot of them sound good, a lot of them feel good. There's so many good clubs today. So I'm gonna get to the conclusion at the end of the video, obviously, so let's keep taking a look at the Titleist. Dispersion, I had 5 of these right there that were super tight. Like that's incredibly consistent. Again, the difference between my worst and my best looks like just over, like almost 20 yards. If this is 190, that's 215. So, you know, That's almost 25-yard difference from my best to my worst, but the majority of them are all right around the same, so very consistent. I would expect nothing less from Titleist. Overall, felt good, sounded good, looks really good. Man, this is so tough. Okay, let's keep hitting more clubs. Okay guys, this next club is coming back into the affordability category. This is very newly on my radar, and this is the Takomo 301 CB. If any of you guys watch Good Golf, you'd be familiar with Bubby, and he plays the Takomo clubs. Takomo is kind of coming guns a-blazing with some golf influencers, some really cool people playing their clubs. Really excited to hit these. These look so clean. Like, I would actually say, based on everything we've looked at, these are probably some of my favorite irons to look at. Very similar to the pings that I hit first, the i230s. So Takomo, a little about them is they're based in Finland. The manufacturing and the materials come from Japan and Hong Kong and Taiwan, I think. They look like a Japanese clubs. The clubs I currently play are Miuras. They look very similar to a Miura. There's some others in the same category that they look very similar. The head weight is heavier, I think. Just feeling it as I take it back, it does feel slightly heavier. Looks very clean. It does have a little bit of shiny chrome, but again, it's muted that it's not as relevant as that Wilson was. They look super clean. I'm so excited to hit this. I couldn't put the Project X into this club since it's already built, so I have a KBS Tour 130X flex shaft, which is very similar to everything that we've hit. So let's see the results of the Takomo 301 CBs. Whew, that felt really good. 1 foot off the line. The lofts on these are 30 degrees, so it puts it right comparable to the Titleist T100, and it's obviously not as strong as some of the other clubs I've hit already. Oh, melted. That last one right there was as good as I can hit it, and that felt as good or better as everything that I've already hit leading up to this point. I would say sound-wise, these sound very similar, or probably the most similar to the pings that we started out with. So these feel harder. It's been a pretty drastic change going from the Titleist, which are probably the softest faces, to these, which are on the harder side. I said they feel and sound very similar to the ping, and that's the closest comparison that I can put it to. But it feels and sounds good because I know the price point, I'll tell you shortly, but I'm quite pleasantly surprised on how these are performing. Here's a miss hit for you. I'm catching them groove low in my miss hits. Okay, way to the right, but my miss hit still went 201, 205. So my miss hits are going as good as I hit my current irons. Crazy. There we go. A bit of a floater. That felt like really good contact. That's 10. Let's take a look. Okay guys, let's find my best and my worst. I had a couple flares that I recall. So that last one, even though I hit it good, was still 71 feet offline. I really wish I could have put my Project X in here, but because the club was already built, I'm trying to make a video with the cards that we were dealt. So I'm gonna have to take that last one out, I think. 215 total, 70 feet offline. That was that low on the face, but relatively decent miss hit. My best was this first one. 206 carry, 220 total, 1 foot offline. I hate to see this go, but I gotta delete my best. Okay, here's my averages. Had some go left, some go right. Again, the shaft was not my first choice by any means, but based on everything, how the club head felt, how it sounded, and how it looks, it's still comparable with all the clubs that we've hit. Let's look at the dispersion. So distance-wise, there's only a 15-yard gap. So again, the dispersion is very similar to everything we've hit. Look at this grouping of 5 over here. Very, very consistent. A really good comparison right off the bat will be this Titleist T100. So the Takomo was averaging 206 carry, Titleist 207, so 1 year difference. 218 total with the Takomo, 218 total with the T100. That's crazy. That's actually quite mind-blowing. The shot shapes, if you look at my tracer, very similar. A couple to the left on the Titleist, a couple to the left with the Takomo, and the majority of them playing a cut. So even though they felt night and day different, the results are very close to the same. Now, let me tell you about the most exciting part about these Takomo irons. They come in at $120 Canadian per iron. That's under $100 US per club to get a Japanese forged iron. Like that sentence has never been said before, I don't think. Affordable Japanese forged irons. They look awesome. Holy smokes, like I was not expecting that in my review at all. And I'm so glad that you subscribers put these onto my radar because these feel way better than I imagined and the results were way better than I imagined. I would be confident putting these in the bag and just tightening up the shaft, loft, and lie to fix that dispersion. But with everything being the same, for these to keep up with the Titleist, like right off the bat, back-to-back sessions, crazy, really, really crazy. So the only kind of bummer with the Takomos is that they are only direct to consumers. So you cannot go to any Modern Golf, Golf Town, Dick's Sporting Goods, PGA Superstore and hit these. To get fit for these, what you could do is they sell the heads separately. So when I got these, the Project X LZ shaft wasn't even an option. That's why I went with the KBS Tours. They sell the heads only. So you could go to a fitting facility and get fit for the right iron shaft, buy the shaft separately, and then buy the heads and then get them assembled at any local golf store. That is the only downside with these Takomos, but I'm impressed, man. These are really good irons. I will mention Takomo, like all these other manufacturers, doesn't only offers a player iron, they offer a game improvement, more forgiving irons. So if you've never heard of Takomo, you can definitely check them out and see what else they offer. Last club, bro. Last club, bro. Okay. The last club that I'm hitting is the Mizuno Pro 223. I saved this for last because I'm now part of the Mizuno cult ever since the JPX, it was a 923? The JPX 923 won my game improvement iron. It was close, it was a very close battle if you guys haven't seen that video already, but I was very impressed with the JPX 923 hot metal, so I'm super excited to hit the Mizuno Pro 223. Visually, it looks very good. It looks like a classic Mizuno. They've always built their clubs a way where you can see the visible weight behind it. It's no different in the 223. Looks pretty clean, just with the classic logo behind it. And overall, I would say it looks middle of the pack. I actually think the hot metal looks cooler, in my own opinion. This is coming in at 28 degrees, so it's tied for the strongest loft. In theory, it should be tied for the furthest 6 iron. I've got my Project X LZ back in here, so let's start getting some data. Really good start. Mizuno's not disappointing. 2 right down the line. Those both felt really good. So there's my miss hit. 196, 210 total. Still only 20 feet right of my line, so far it's pretty forgiving. That felt crushed. I've noticed my dispersion, I think so far has been the tightest with these. Like I've melted the line a couple times. It's all the same lofts, lies, we haven't changed anything. It feels really good. Like we've had people that say that I'm biased towards Mizuno, which I'm definitely not. Watch some of my old reviews, I trash Mizuno. These feel really good and they're definitely in the running. I got a couple more hits, let's go. Melted. Crazy. Okay guys, let's take a look at these. Okay, the very first thing that I want to see is all of them. It just felt like a really tight session. So looking at this, one got away from me to the left, and there was a couple that went pretty far to the right. But from a dispersion perspective, it felt tight. Okay, I got to delete my best and my worst, so let's take a look here. Look at my first 3 hits. 1, 2, 3. Like relatively close to the line. 4, right on the line. 3 feet right of the line. 205 carry, 216 total offline. I'm gonna delete it as my worst. Let's hear that, my worst hit was 205 carry, 215 total. Okay, I'm gonna say this was my best. 217 carry, 228 total, only 7 feet offline. Crazy. Delete. Okay, here's my averages. I was averaging 206 carry, 218 total. How does that compare? Takomo, 206, so it's right on, the distance, so the distance between the two is like identical, almost, right? Yeah. The dispersion was obviously different, but I have my Project X LZ back in there, so it'd be really interesting to see what the Takomo looked like with my shaft. The Titleist 207 carry, 206 carry, like so close. But I'm looking at that dispersion. So Titleist had the same shaft in it, right? And I had more hits down the center with the Mizuno than I did the Titleist. This is so hard. What I'm gonna do to pick the winner is I'm going to rely on the head club fitter of modern golf, Jeremy Marr, to come in here. If you've seen any of our lesson videos, Jeremy helps me do a ton of cool lessons. I'm gonna let him take a look at all the data, and based on his professional opinion, I'm gonna let him rank these clubs. Let's go find Jer. When you're picking a new set of irons, they have to look good and feel good. Is that fair?
Well, I'll even say, like, when you're picking out a new iron, some people don't care what it looks like, but feel is a very important thing, how it's responding, how it feels in your hand. If it's coming off dull, soft, like in a forged iron, some people care. Look, and I'll even say, like, 99% of the time people come in and say, I don't care about the look, and then you give them something, and then they'll say, oh, I don't like the look of that. It's like a car, right?
Yeah,
You'll be like, okay, here's your pink car, and be like, well, no.
So based on everything that I hit, just the ones that I'm thinking felt the best, pink felt really good out of the gate. Callaway felt awesome, I think it's because it has like that hollow body, semi-hollow body.
Yep.
PXG surprisingly felt good. Titleist felt good. Takomo felt good. Mizuno felt good. So that's really why I wanted to bring you in here to look at my data and have you help me rank these irons. Okay, this is the hardest part of the whole video, and that's why I brought you in. So you're gonna be the scapegoat. So if anyone wants to get mad at this ranking, get mad at Jeremy. You have to rank these based on the data that you see. We've just looked at the data for a long time. You've analyzed it, you've seen everything you need to see. Rank these in your professional opinion from 9 to 1.
Well, going off the feedback that you said a little bit too, like that Wilson, you said you weren't too crazy about. The numbers weren't as good as, say, the other ones, like 4 or 5 yards carry down. So I'd probably say the Wilson right now at 9. I would probably put the Cobras at 8 just because we've got a big jump and not as consistent. The ball's going a little bit lower and more rollout. We don't want to have the ball roll out too far. You want to land on the green if it's a front pin and be somewhat close, not front, and roll off all the way to the back.
Okay.
7, I would be looking at. For a 7 iron, this is good numbers, but again, I think that the numbers would have been a little bit tighter for your dispersion hitting a 7 iron compared to 6 irons.
Right.
So I might put the ping in there.
Okay.
And like I said, how did it look to you?
It looked really good. Like out of the gate, I thought it looked awesome. I thought it sounded really good. It was a really good start.
But just looking at the numbers right here,
right,
a little bit less consistent. So
okay.
I maybe would put the ping right there.
So what are we gonna put in the 6 slot?
I think we'd probably be putting that Titleist in there, the T100s. Like I said, you've got good numbers, but again, we've got a few glaring pulls, which you said you've had more with that one compared to the other ones. That could be maybe changing the shaft up and we might get a little bit tighter and better numbers, but I would probably put that right there. It's got a little bit less rollout, but not as tight a dispersion as, say, the ones that are coming up.
Okay. Now we're coming into the top half, the 5 spot.
Probably going to put that Takomo in there. Similar to the Titleist, but again, we weren't hitting the shaft that you're used to, so that might even get better.
Right.
But again, spins up, a little bit less rollout, a little bit more consistency with that shaft maybe that we would dive into a little bit more in a full-on fit.
Right.
Next, I'd probably throw in the PXG. Again, the spin's a little bit lower, but very tight dispersion. And like you said, you were surprised how it felt and looked. So again, that's what's important.
Okay, so coming in the 3 spot.
Here's the question for you though. What in these final 3, is there one that stood out more? Because the numbers are all very good.
Yeah, so 2 stand out more based on how everything felt.
Okay.
So the Mizuno and the Callaway felt better than the Taylormade.
Perfect, that's what I was gonna say. The Taylormade's very good. But again, this is similar to a 7 iron, a little bit stronger, lofted. Again, good numbers. Spins higher, obviously, but it's more loft. 200 yards carry for a 7 iron is very good. And a little bit tighter dispersion compared to the other ones.
So Taylormade in the 3 spot.
Yeah. Number 2, I probably would throw in the Callaway Apex Pro. Very good numbers. Your carry's up quite a bit. But again, very good numbers in dispersion. And you said you liked the feel of it.
It felt awesome. It stands out for sure.
And then looking at the numbers, I like the numbers of this Mizuno right here. We've only got one little hole to the left, but again, we dive into it a little bit more with a fit and make these numbers even better.
Crazy.
People are gonna hate that result.
You're not sponsored by Mizuno, right?
No, I'm not. Out of all the manufacturers that we talked to, like you've introduced us to a lot of reps of companies, right? We've talked to a ton of people, and someone that we've never talked to is Mizuno. So I have zero skin in the game to push Mizuno ahead of any other manufacturer, right? You know us as well as anyone, and we're not in bed with Mizuno at all, right?
Well, that's like us though. We have no brand loyalty. We just want people to be fit into the best product for them. And at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie.
Right.
So that's why we want our customers and guys like you to be fit properly. And like you said, you have no brand loyalty, so.
No, none. Crazy. I can't believe that was the results of our fitting. Thank you, Jeremy, for helping me rank these. I'm looking at the list and I'm just gonna see if I am gonna argue with anything. I would probably put the Ping higher. That was the only one that stood out just from the way that I felt it and the results that I got. I would probably, it's so hard. Like this list is so tough looking at it. I might flip the Titleist and the Ping. I think I enjoyed the Ping, like looking at it a little bit more than the Titleist. So that's only the 6 and 7 spot, but I fully agree with everything else. I'd be interested in that Takomo iron if it had the LZ shaft. And from the price point, it's only 120 bucks Canadian ahead.
That's huge.
An iron, right?
Well, like I said, I agree with the Ping. That's where we would maybe dive into a little bit more into a fit, because at the end of the day, if you like the look of this club in the field, then you know what, we're gonna get you into something that you like. And if you're sold on that, then we'll fit you for that.
Well, hey, maybe the next video we'll get you to fit me for a set and we'll see if the results match up in a fitting.
Perfect.
Let's do that. Thanks for watching this video, guys. We'll check in with you next time. See you guys.